Ever wondered why is it that when we see the same thing with our friends or with our loved ones or even with our peers or our leaders, why is it that everyone sees one thing but everyone has a different interpretation of the same thing? Well, in today's episode, we're going to discuss this one thing called frames. Okay, so if you're new to our channel, welcome to Coaching Changes Lives. My name is Jedi. I'm a Master Certified Coach with the International Coaching Federation. I've been training coaches, inspiring them, mentoring them all around the world. So this video, we're going to talk about framing. What do we mean by framing? Well, have you ever been framed before? How does it feel to be framed? Well, this is what we do all the time. We often frame the context or the content of the situation. Think about this. Right now, if we go down, to our house outside of our porch, and we see something happen. Say, for example, we saw a cat that came by, or a black cat that walked by. Straight away, it triggers something. Black cat. Some of us may believe in good luck. Some of us may believe in bad luck. And because of that context there, we begin to frame our world. We think that there's something about that cat that caused all of us. And what happens is that during the rest of the days, we begin to realize that, oh no, I didn't get a promotion at work. Oh, things didn't go through for me well in the workspace because of the black cat. We have framed our world just like that. The power of framing is in knowing one thing. Listening to how an individual is framing their world today. How are they framing their sentences? How are they framing their life? How are they framing their conversational context? For example, the pandemic hit everyone all around the world, but some of us frame it in a way that of opportunities. Some of us frame it in a way of, things are getting, happening to me again, right? I just when I got my first break, now I'm going back 2 steps. Some of us feel that, hey, nothing changed. Wow, because we took on different frames. Now, what do we mean by frames? Well, frame is how we see things in a certain picture. And this frame is designed by our own life experiences, our beliefs, our attitudes, our culture, our generational attitudes, even our traditions, right? It frames the way we see our value systems as well, influences how we frame the world. For some people, whatever happens in their life, they always choose to see the positive in them. For others, they often see the more negative things in them. However, this is where we want to caution a little bit, because what is positive to someone might be negative to another. What is negative to another might be positive to another. How we frame the world, it's how we see the world. How we see the world, it's how we speak the world. So you see, oftentimes when I hear the clients share with me their stories, I can understand how they're seeing the world, and from what I see from their expression, it tells me the frame by which they see. Because for us as human beings, we tend to see the world in the same frame. Across all things, we can see consistent patterns, and that's when we know that the particular frame they're using again and again and again. So the key secret is this. Are those frames empowering you, or are those frames disempowering you? Are those frames helping you to move towards your outcome, or are those frames holding you back from achieving the outcome that you desire? The power of framing, it's not about just trying to, think positive all the time. It's not about positive intelligence all the time. No, sometimes it's just about getting over the sense of being stuck in the rut. Coaching, it's not about everything's positive, everything's happy. No, coaching is this. Even when there's mud, even there's dirt, even when things don't go the way it should, even when there's a storm in front of us, how do we get into the eye of the storm? How do we overcome? Overcomers are not people who avoid challenges ahead. They are people who sees challenges and say, hey, that's bread for me. That is nourishment for me. That's nutrients for me. I love challenge. Challenge helps me to grow. Every challenge stretches me forward. Now, that is when we see performance increasing. And that's why I often tell coaches, whenever I do performance coaching for leaders and individuals, I always tell them one thing. When you see challenges, the bigger the challenge, your muscles are stretching. Your thinking, your cognition is stretching. Your emotional state is stretching. Your physiological state is stretching. There is nothing that is given to us that comes our way that we cannot overcome. We have seen time and time again when mankind face all odds, against all odds, there is always hope, there is always promises, there's always strength to face it all. But how do we tap to the recesses of strength? How do we tap into that? It's firstly by changing the frame. Changing the frame of how we see the world. I've heard stories of how moms, right, when they see their little child being pinned under the car, suddenly, with superhuman strength, they're able to leave that car. Why? Because in that moment, something happens. There's an overdrive of energy that comes into the person, and because they see through a different frame. They see through a different frame, suddenly everything aligns for them, and there's power that comes in. Coaching has the power to change lives because transformation, the word transformation, it's the idea of metamorphosizing, this idea of power that's being transferred, this idea of power being stepped up. So think about this. When you have an electrical station, there's this item called the transformer. The transformer either steps up electricity or steps down. So are we stepping up our electricity on certain things, or are we stepping down on certain things? That's how we should frame our world. First, I want you to try this out. How are you framing your world currently? Your personal, your professional life? How do you see the world? Are you aware of how you see the world? Are you aware of the language that you use? Are you aware of what you're reading or what's reading you? Next, I want you to listen to your clients. What kind of clients are you serving? What are the typical frames that they use? And how would you change some of those frames? In our master classes with our coaches in our community at Coaching Genius Lives, I teach them across the ACC, BCC, MCC level the different degrees of frames. And they begin to use those frames very, very, very intuitively and very precisely to help their clients to see the world differently. I encourage you, if you're thinking about, hey, how do I see the world differently? Try applying the frames. The frames allows us to see the world differently. If you can see the world differently, you can do different, you can be different. Hope this message has helped inspire you. If you like this message about how frames change our lives, I want to encourage you to hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, share this with your friends all over social media, and I'll see you really soon in one of our programs. And until next time, this is Jedi Coaching Changes Lives.